Good afternoon, everyone. Cold surge advisory out for almost all of Taiwan, clear down to 21 degrees north latitude. The skies are clearing enough to now see parts of Yangmingshan just outside Taipei. At least 6 centimeters of snow, still waiting for the weather to break, but at lower elevations around 5 to 600 meters, snow on the tropical vegetation. Datun mountain snow quite rare. Police closing roads all through the mountains due to hazardous conditions unless you have snow chains on your motorbike tires. Now, the entire spine of Taiwan was covered in snow. I know it snows every year on the peaks, but not at this magnitude across the entire island, literally down to just hundreds of meters off of sea level. Ice on motorbikes, ice on cars. Homeless having a very difficult time due to the cold. Fish are cold stunned. They're trying to pump groundwater in to keep the fish warmer so they don't die. And now give it to these two who are taking their pre-wedding photos out in the snow. You know they're going to stay married for a long time. And while you're watching the video, please remember to subscribe to Adapt 2030 and click that bell so you can get the latest updates. And if you thought that massive cold wave in Asia, bringing record snow to Japan and crushing buildings across China, cold down into Vietnam, well, Taiwan wasn't spared either. Cold surge advisory. This encompasses nearly the entire island. In that really dark blue, that's what's considered the spine of Taiwan. That's a mountain ridge that separates the east coast from the west coast. Now, the homeless are having a very difficult time. They're not used to these cold temperatures. It's near freezing at night here in a tropical country. It continued on the 4th. Anywhere that the precipitation came down, that was in the form of snow. Anything down to about 800 meters, some places 600 meters, but anywhere it was blue or green was snow on the island at some sort of small elevation and above. This is probably the best representation right here of what the snow totals are down the ridges and up toward Taipei. As a good example, the weather's just finally starting to clear enough for people to get telephoto shots of what's up on the mountain. Few people have been up there. The roads are closed due to the snow, but they call it the white hat. Now, this is just one view from one side of the mountain. The winds came from the other side, so looking over to the north of the mountain, you just don't know what's on that side, but you can see this from the city. And this is around 800 meters elevation. Snow cover on the tropical vegetation on the trails going through some parts of Manicured Park. Families are taking the day off from work, taking their kids up there to play in the snow. Minimum 6 centimeters on the 5th register. They're still trying to get the totals in, but this is really low. I've even walked up in this park. This is where the bus lets you off, where you can catch the shuttle to go further up to the volcanic vents and then up into the hiking trails. This is literally at the base of what would be considered the beginning of the national park. More images starting to emerge, but you can see dots of white across all the peaks. And this is just in town. These mountains are only 600 to maybe 1,200 meters tall at the maximum. Like Datun Mountain, even the meteorologists are calling this a rare snowfall indeed. That valley there is where they grow an enormous amount of vegetables. They have organic farms. You can walk through there, have coffee and tea on the weekends. Now, taking a look at Datun, it ranges from 646 meters up to where the ridge would be, where it connects to another mountain around 960. Police have blocked traffic going into the mountains due to slippery conditions and hazardous roads. Interesting how they're using snow to stabilize the cones there as well. So if you have snow chains on your motorbike tires, you're able to go up into the mountains. If you don't, they're not allowing you to go up there. So you can at least see how much snow's on the road at the very lowest elevations at the moment. And that was in the north part of Taipei. Now when we come to the south part, it's called Wulai, and you're going into another mountain section south of Xindian after you get off the underground station there. Wulai, again, tropical vegetation, covered in snow. This is what the roads look like going through there. Not very high in elevation, 500-600 meters. Some more images off Apple Daily that are starting to come in now that the weather's clearing. But everything was fogged in and incredibly windy for a while with the snows. Up here at Lala, people taking a trip through the walking trails. Snow's kind of rare in Taiwan. People travel to Japan to go see it. But Yangmingshan, unless you're really ready to go up there, that is a danger to get up in that cold if you're not ready for it. It's up on Acacia Hill, another rest spot overview for when you're walking up there during the weekends or doing a little bit of hiking. Now back down on coastal areas where the fish farms are, it's gotten so cold that the water temperatures dropped down to 7 degrees Celsius and it's starting to stun the fish. They're already finding fish kills in the ponds. So what they're trying to do is feverishly pull groundwater to pump into the ponds to try to warm it up a little bit, because the groundwater is slightly warmer than the air temperatures and what the water in these fish ponds have gotten down to. Look at the map here on the 6th. Now we just got a little respite until that next cold wave pulls down from China. That's that huge cloud band on the left over there. And just above that is a cold air funnel being pushed down, and Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and China are going to see really cold temperatures over the next 2 weeks again. And as the storm was coming in, it was ice first. It was a heavy sleet storm before it actually turned into snowflakes, covering motorbikes, covering cars. That's ice. That's not water dribbling off. That has frozen solid onto the cars there. So again, looking at the spine of the island, when you see that really dark blue, that's pretty much the snowfall totals. And then when you get up into the north part of the island, when you get into Yangmingshan, those images I showed you. So let's go a little further into the center of the island, down the spine, a little bit east of Taichung. A lot of trekking and weekend hiking areas up there, but you just don't see the entire island covered like this. These types of valleys in the mountains, those are going down to about 1,000 meters. And then we got the camping areas at around 1,000 meters as well. And then up to Lishan. This is an area where they have some agriculture going on with terrace farming. But they haven't seen snow up there in years, not alone these depths. And you can see why the police would cordon off roads. This is extremely hazardous, and there's a lot of cliffs and guardrails, and it's very easy to slide off the road. And when you even get into the higher elevations, you can see the ferocity with which that was blown sideways. The storm that passed over the island. In just a matter of days, green vegetation turns white and icicle forest forming. Few images here as we're getting higher into the mountains. You can see the snow depths increased and everything was blanketed heavily. And this all makes sense in the cyclical pattern of increasing snowfalls over tropical or semi-tropical areas. Snowed in Taiwan last year, which they hadn't seen in decades either. And then Okinawa, it snowed last year. And here's the grand solar minimum forecast as our solar activity drops back into something in the multi-century declines. We're heading into the Eddy minimum. We're going to repeat at least something from the Dalton minimum before we slip further back into the Maunder minimum. This is just a single location on the globe that you're starting to see the changes. And this couple up in Miaoli, I will give it to them for their persistence and tenacity to keep going. These are the pre-wedding photos, and here they are up in the snow on a mountain. I think they're getting ready for the Chinese New Year. High time for marriage, and I know they're going to stay married for a long time. If they went through this much trouble to get up into the mountains to get those photos before they get married during Chinese New Year, that's literally a match made in heaven. And if you're unfamiliar how the solar activity affects Earth's climate, just a quick look into a traditional search engine or a PDF search engine. Put in grand solar minimum, you'll come up with the forecast using amplitude and magnetism on the sun to forecast out what the cycles are going to be. How much activity is occurring on the sun dictates temperatures on our planet and also how the jet streams are flowing. So it's very clear we're going to step off activity-wise back into something that we haven't seen in several centuries. You can also see this in the daily sunspot. Solar rotations, northern and southern hemisphere. This is called the butterfly graph. And you see we're already almost back into the 1880s. What we're predicted to do is drop off back to solar cycle 6 activity, repeating solar cycles. So irregardless if you're living out in Asia or if you're somewhere else on the planet, this affects all of us. The grand solar minimum is going to affect our food production. The temperatures are going to come back up. It's going to be warm in the summer again. But what happens is on the periphery of the growing season, the harvest season, these colder out of season temperatures take a toll on our crops. And this is the thing that we can't avoid. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of the video.